I'm doing everything I can, alright? Everything you guys have asked me to do, I've done. But these assholes are watching me now. Until everything calms the fuck down, I'm not pushing a goddamn thing, okay? And if your supervisor doesn't like it, well, all I can say is fuck him and fuck you. Whenever I behaved badly, John Carr's punishment was to withhold my chicken katsu at the Little Lau and force me to drive 60 miles to McDonald's in Pomona. Following our heated exchange, that's exactly where I was headed for our next Friday meeting. I finished my last cheeseburger, then sat in my yellow plastic booth chewing on a straw as I waited for my handler to arrive. John was always chronically late, but 2.5 hours was obviously some added punishment for being naughty. I was close to walking out of the place when the man finally walked in. "You're as bad as a fucking tweaker," I told him as he plopped down in a seat opposite of me. "I've been sitting here for over 2 hours, man. I've eaten 4 fucking cheeseburgers and an apple pie." John leaned forward and said straight face, "You give me any more shit, Ro, and I'll throw your ass in jail." Then he gave a sly grin and broke the ice. "Go fuck yourself," I cursed under my breath. "Don't worry about it," said John. "We're both under pressure, dude. I've got other shit I'm dealing with too. Our CI in Victorville just got arrested. It's a big mess up there." Charles, aka Quick Draw, had been in a bar called Mickey McGee's with a handful of patches and prospects when a dispute had arisen with a civilian over, surprise, surprise, a pool table. Per international FWI, UFWA regulations, the Vogels had gone berserk and stomped the civilian bloody, while Quick Draw had roamed the sidelines warning those greenies that the cops would come. And sure enough, the cops had come. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department sergeant had been watching the bar from the parking lot, knowing the Vagos had been inside. He'd come in like the cavalry and arrested the whole bunch, including ATF's inside man. Now, Quick Draw was cooling his heels in a cell, slapped with a $200,000 bail, and Special Agents Kozlowski and Carr were looking for a way to spring him without compromising the case. It would take them a month. It was a mess, all right, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't give a rat's ass about Quick Draw McGraw and his problems up in Victorville. I had my own worries. After more than 2 years undercover and months of stress, I'd hit the wall. In the past, when I'd come to this point, John would pump my tires with a pep talk. "Keep it going, George. The goal line's in sight. We're in the home stretch. Rah, rah, rah." But I wasn't listening anymore. I was done with the grinding pressure, the long hours, and being pushed around and treated like a child by Big Roy, a punk I could have bitch slapped with one hand. Make that 2 hands, tied behind my back. I wanted the fucking thing over and the Vagos out of my life, whatever that life was going to be. And that was the big question. My eyes were finally opening to a future beyond 22 green, and I couldn't see any. Life would change once this was over. I realized that now. This wasn't as simple as removing my cut, exiting the Vagos, and merging back into my old life in Hemet. I detoured onto a fucking road without an off-ramp. I'd never get back to the place I'd been. Fact was, I'd eventually have to testify against the brothers I took down, and once George Rowe's name was out there, his ass would be grass. And the lives of those closest to me would be in danger too. Certainly old Joe was screwed, just like he'd warned from the beginning. Even though I'd kept Jenna in the dark, no doubt the Vagos would assume her guilt by association. I dug everyone a big ass hole, and no matter how hard I thought it through, I couldn't figure a way out. "Let me ask you something, John," I said, stirring what was left of my shake with the bent straw. "What happens to me when this ends? I don't follow. When this case is over, I'm fucked in Hammond, aren't I? I can't ever go back." John didn't answer right away, but I could read the look on his face. "Maybe not, George," he finally said. It was almost a relief to get it out there, to finally address the elephant in the room. The big bastard had been standing there all along, and I'd been ignoring him. "Well, not anymore. Hey there, Jumbo. Nice to finally meet you." "Okay, so what can I do?" I asked. "What are my options?" "Well, we could move you. Put you someplace safe." "You mean like Hammer?" "Hammer killed himself, dude." "What else we got?" "Well, there's always WITSEC, Witness Security. What they used to call witness protection. The U.S. Marshal Service runs that program. We'll have to apply, but there's no guarantee they take you. But if they did, then you disappear. They'd move you, give you a new name, new social, a new life with new identity. I considered this a long moment. What about Joe? Could he come? John shook his head. Not unless you're legally married. I returned a wry smile. Joe's a great guy, but listen, George, don't worry about your friend. If WITSEC is the direction you decide to go, you have my word, Joe will be protected. As far as I'm concerned, when you signed up for this operation, he came with the package. But here's the thing you need to know about the witness security program. If the marshals take you and you do go in, you're basically cut off from the past. You can't have any contact, any communication with anyone you might have known. If the marshals find out you've compromised your new identity, you get thrown out of the program. It's a big step, dude, a life changer. I leaned back in the booth to watch a young family across the way, chowing down on their Happy Meals. Sometimes it was easy to forget that there was a world out there where people don't worry about things like getting buried in the sand or rebooting their entire fucking lives, man. Sometimes it was easy to forget there was a world out there where people don't worry about things like getting buried in sand or rebooting their fucking lives. Man, I just wanted to live in that world again, but I couldn't. It was gone. This was the deal right from the start, wasn't it? I said matter-of-factly, I was never going back to Hemet. John leaned closer. It's just how things worked out, George. Yeah, it's how things worked out, George. And now, here I sat in the land of Ronald McDonald, totally fucked. I need to think about this, I said after a moment. Yeah, you do. It's a big decision, John agreed. But I'll do whatever I put up a sudden hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Someone familiar had just entered the restaurant. I'd watched him knock down beers with Terry the Tramp and hung out with him at the Screaming Chicken. I knew this long-haired bruiser. It was Bubba, that big, friendly biker who refused to join any outlaw club. Fuck, I hissed at John under my breath. I don't believe it. What's wrong? John said, turning to follow my look. That's Bubba, man. He's a friend of Tramp's. What are the fucking odds? Bubba spotted me. Oh, shit. He walked up to the table, hovering above it, and offered me his big paw. Hey, George, good to see you, brother. What are you doing here? I answered as calmly as I could, pumping the big biker's hand. Working, brother. Always working. Then he extended his hand to John Carr. How goes the battle, John? I was floored. John slid over, and Bubba pushed into the seat beside him. Wait, you two know each other? I said. Bubba turned and smirked at John. Look at this handsome son of a bitch. I hate sitting next to this guy. He always makes me look bad. Show him where you work, Bubba, said John. Bubba discreetly reached under his shirt and pulled out a gold star hanging from a chain. The badge was stamped Deputy Sheriff, Los Angeles County. This is where I work. No shit was all I could manage. No shit, Bubba smiled. Born and raised in Long Beach, California, Bubba was turned on to law enforcement at an early age, watching television cop shows. Much like John Carr, only where John was a fan of Miami Vice, Bubba loved Adam 12. He entered law enforcement in 1969, then gone under as Bubba the Biker, buddying up to motorcycle outlaws and gathering intelligence for over 20 years. For a good chunk of that time, he'd worked with Special Agent Carr as a core member of ATF's 1%er task force, taking an occasional hiatus to travel the country, speaking at law enforcement seminars as an expert on outlaw motorcycle gangs. In fact, it was Bubba, I found out later, who introduced my friendly detective Duffy to John Carr. This man was the matchmaker behind my marriage to ATF. Now pushing 50, Bubba was nearing retirement and looking forward to rejoining his family, including a long-suffering wife who had pretty much raised their 4 kids during her husband's long absences.